Yay, whoa, yeah. A lot of this get lost in translation, investigating etymology for clarification on explanations. Misunderstood the root of frustrations, these corporations calculating, banking on all our hatred and never waking in the world that itself is just waking. I knew this information years ago, just lost observation, patiently waiting for the day when it will fall information, creating higher frequencies, curators of our vibrations.
Back with another iteration, we have co-host Pod Rashad, me, Marcus. You're joining the iCast, and we have a special guest before we dive into a conversation that blends on science, compassion, and a little bit of pop culture. We're joined by Dr. Lauren Flaherty, a neuropsychologist with a deep and diverse background in clinical psychology, bioethics, and neuropsychological assessment. With degrees from the University of Louisville and affiliations with organizations like the American Psychological Society and the Society for Neuroscience, Dr. Flaherty brings both academic depth and practical experience to her work. She specializes in treating a wide range of concerns, from anxiety and trauma to learning disorders and memory impairment, across all ages. Beyond the clinic, she's a published researcher, international speaker, and active community member. And when she's not working, she's loving on her 4 kids, flicking forehands across the tennis court, and slaying with Buffy the Vampire. But wait, there's more. Her and her team created the PhrenD mobile app, designed to support individuals experiencing cognitive impairment, known as CI, as well as their caregivers, healthcare professionals, and family members. Available in an app store near you, PhrenD combines mind exercises, information tracking, and assessment tools to help manage and potentially slow or reverse the progression of CI. The name PhrenD blends the Greek word for brain, friend, with the concept of a friend, symbolizing the app's goal to be a supportive companion in brain health. The capital D emphasizes the app's medical connection. And with all that being said, join me in welcoming Dr. Lauren Flaherty.
Yay, thank you for having me. That's a hell of an introduction. Jeez.
We had to give you, we call it a Club Shay Shay. If you ever watch Shannon Sharp, he always loves to give a long, but we have to. Come on now, for your time and all you do for your work for the community.
Appreciate you being on.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Yes. I guess before we get into it, so the most important question, I'm sure, what everyone wants to know. Born and raised here, what high school did you go to? Come on.
Ballard. Actually, so I went to KCD until 8th grade, and the plan was always for me to graduate there. But it was the same, it was the same 50 people that I had been to school with since like 1st grade. So I wanted to go somewhere else. I actually did my freshman year at Assumption High School, Catholic, all girls, and quickly realized that was not where I wanted to spend all of my high school time. So I actually went to Ballard. I graduated from Ballard.
All right. That's where I went to. See the Ballard letters up there? I had to represent. So,
as we like to say, it's brewing, big B's. I went to Manual, of course, but my sister went to Ballard too. So Ballard connection everywhere.
Yeah, for
sure. Of course, the second question, UK or U of L?
Come on, like we're okay, so we're gonna be divisive. This is tough because I actually come from a family that's divided. My dad went to UK, my mom went, but then they both ended up at U of L. Then my brother went to UK for undergrad, and then U of L for dental school. My sister ended up at UK for medical school. I'm all over. So here's my thing. U of L made me a doctor, so U of L first. But if they're not in, question, if they're not involved, then I will root for UK.
Okay.
Understandable.
Yeah. I guess me and Rashad are divided. We got blue and red. Don't worry. Now, what was your dream job growing up? Besides being, a vampire slave.
Okay, listen. That show, I know the 90s were, you guys are probably a little bit too young, but the 90s were awesome. That show made a huge impact on who I am. But what I'm doing now is actually what I dreamt of doing when I was like 10 or 11. And I don't know where it came from. I think, you know what? I was watching, have you guys ever seen the movie Silence of the Lambs?
Yeah, with Jodie.
Okay, so I should not have been watching that, but I was watching that around that age. and I was just enthralled. And then from then on, I started reading things and watching movies that were in the same vein, like Girl Interrupted, anything with Angelina Jolie, anything that had to do with atypical, brain processes. And so that's what I wanted to do when I was a kid, but I talked myself out of it probably 5 times throughout my education. So, I mean, I think it's pretty cool. I actually ended up, finally doing it. I talked myself into everything else other than this, but here I am.
Crazy. Meant to be, though.
Yep.
Meant to be.
Always a good feeling though to be able to do what you really have a passion for. It makes things a lot easier. Like not many people get to end up doing what they wanted to as a kid.
Definitely. I'm very grateful for it. So those like bad days that everybody has at work where, you're just like overstimulated, exhausted, why am I doing this? I have very few of those because I get really tired, obviously, but the why am I doing this doesn't really happen as much, because it's like intrinsic. I know exactly why I'm doing this. So I understand that the majority of the global population will never really have that same opportunity. So I definitely consider myself to be very, very blessed in that area.
For those who aren't familiar with neuropsychology, how would you explain that at a dinner party?
Oh my gosh, I've had to do it a lot because one of the first things that you do when you meet people, right, is, oh, what do you do? That's always the first
Yes.
question. And then when I say clinical neuropsychology, most people are like, what is that? And so I have to explain it a lot. And so the best way I can explain it is the way that you would envision the field of psychology, right? Mental health. And then you take neurology, which is brain disorder, brain health, and you combine the two. It's a really cool intersection. So in real life, what it looks like is, there's actually a really good continuum of patients that I see. I could see anybody from, the very common anxiety, trauma, depression, all the way to the more rare, like multiple sclerosis, Parkinson's, ataxia, the rare stuff, some genetic things going on, people that maybe were exposed to toxins in utero, things like that. So it really does vary, but anything that has to do with the brain or the mind is kind of how I describe it.
Okay. Now, are you at a private practice or hospital? How does
Yeah,
that differ, like in work?
they're so different. I've worked in almost every environment. So obviously for a university, I've worked in a hospital. I did my internship at the VA, which is a world of its own. Academia, yeah, university. And then right now I'm in private practice. And it's just very different. It's an eat what you kill kind of thing. So like keeping really good note taking, being very, very meticulous. But also there's an element of sales to it too in private practice. So you have to really work on that you have to hone in on that marketing and that sales. And a lot of times when people get to me, I don't have to do any pitching because they've been through the mill and they're willing to do whatever, but sometimes, people need a little bit of convincing on why they need to invest in that particular service, if it's out of pocket at all. Or when you work in a university, that's not an issue. That's all. So you can work less, honestly, and it's much more relaxed. You can focus on research. Private practice it's a business.
What tools or methods do you use, like, since it's such a wide range? Like, how do you know, like, where to go to
Yeah.
first step?
That's a huge part of the training, actually. It's usually a 3-step process. So the first step is a person comes in and completes an intake. That's what we call it. And that's like gathering really extensive history, psych history, medical history, social history, education, family, environmental, developmental, everything. And then we also get an idea of what the symptoms are. What are the complaints? What are you noticing? What's the timeline? How severe? What are other people saying? Let me see your doctor's records. And then based on that, we use our own clinical judgment and training to put together an assessment that is just for them based on their age, based on their history, based on the question at hand, like what are we even trying to answer here? And so every person that looks different. And so everything we do is based on evidence. So one tool may not be useful for somebody that's say 32, may not be valid for somebody that's 15 or somebody that's 89. You have to use different tools. So it really all is dependent upon that personal information and that history.
That's wild. That's wild. So, like, I guess in that vein, neuroimaging scanning is a like part. I'm guessing that's part of it. So when you watch a movie, and it's like this is perfect. You watch a movie. Are you looking at that neuroimaging scan and seeing if it matches up with the diagnosis that they're explaining in the movie, or
Yeah,
are you able to
sometimes.
see?
Sometimes there was it was a really good one. So most shows, like TV shows and series, are just garbage when it comes to accuracy. So I don't even bother looking if we're watching like a Grey's Anatomy or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all entertainment and it's just not accurate. Like that stuff is not how it would happen. But when it's a movie, it's a little bit different because they bring in experts. There was this one movie, gosh, it was on Netflix. I can't remember what it was called. It was something about the brain. It was essentially this young girl, and I found it to be very accurate and very interesting. It was perfectly healthy. She had a cold, as far as anybody knew, just normal like sniffle and flu symptoms. And then after that, she started developing a lot of personality changes. She started hearing things that weren't there. She had all kinds of symptoms that popped up out of nowhere, and she was passed from every doctor. And it was based on a true story.
Okay.
So it was on Netflix. It's annoying me that I can't figure out what it was, but it was based on a true story. And I mean, it was probably like a year's worth of a process for her. And during the very beginning, when she started developing the first symptoms, I called it. I was like, I know what it is. I know what it is. It's it's a very rare thing, but it's basically like whenever we catch a virus, it's possible, depending on your body's immune reaction, that you can develop encephalopathy and you can develop all kinds of issues because of the immune swelling that can occur. And so that I was like, it's got to be tagged to that virus she had. It must be, but nobody else was thinking about it. And they actually played it out pretty accurately in that movie. It was well done and interesting, and I thought it would be very educational for anybody in healthcare. As far as, I mean, she was diagnosed with like schizophrenia, bipolar, like everything in the book, and nobody had even considered this other physiological reason.
Is it called Brain on Fire?
Yes. 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 That's it. It's good. Yeah, that's it. And I wanted my whole family to watch it with me, but not everybody's as interested in the brain as I am. But I thought it was a good depiction for most of the time, though. I mean, most of the TV portrayals are not good.
That's what I commonly hear from people in the medical field. So it wouldn't surprise me that you're on that side of the tracks when it comes to
Yeah.
that. I think this question's from my wife. For those of us who misplace our keys daily, is what she wanted to say. What's the difference between normal forgetfulness and patterns that may show difference in our maybe cognitive impairment is the word, but
Yeah. Okay. So memory is impacted by a lot of things. Memory is actually a really complicated process. It's not as
okay.
simple as like, oh, can you recall it or not? It's complicated. I describe it as like a file cabinet to patients. So the memory
Hmm.
itself is the file, but whether or not you're able to open up the drawer and withdraw the correct file is a different process. That's more of a frontal executive process. If the file's not in there at all, then that's more temporal, and that's like what you would see with Alzheimer's and stuff. So if I give you a list of words and then I say in 15 minutes, give them all back to me, free recall, that's one thing. And if you can't get them all, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a list of like multiple choice and say which one of these was on the list that I gave you. If you can recognize them and you say, oh, that's right, that means that the file is in there. You just weren't able to pull it out. That's more of a frontal thing, which is usually more to do with attention. So if you're not paying attention to something, you're not going to log it into memory. And it also has to do a lot with stress levels. So I have a lot of people that ask about ADHD, and what they end up getting diagnosed with more than anything is actually like, problematic anxiety. And they say, well, how can that mess with my memory and attention? I don't understand. And I put it like this. I'm like, okay, it would be like me putting you in a cage with a tiger, a hungry tiger, and you have no weapons, right? And I'm standing outside of the cage and I'm saying, do your multiplication tables. Give me the state's capitals. You're not going to be able to do it. And it's not because the capacity isn't there. It's because your brain has determined at that point, the only thing that matters, that is relevant, is that tiger and getting out of there.
Okay.
And
Wow.
so like in everyday life, we're not going to come across a tiger, but we will come across like social and financial threats. And that kind of ignites the same area of the brain. So if there's chronic stress and chronic stress hormones, your attention is disrupted and you're not going to log things the same way. You're going to log what's relevant to your brain at the time. As far as like problematic pathological forgetting, there's normal aging differences that happen.
Mm-hmm.
Your memory is not going to be the same at 50 as it was at 20. It's just not. Your brain, your cognitive peak is like 30 to 30.
Okay.
After that, you guys are right there at the peak. I'm on the downhill. But so like there's normal aging differences that are going to happen. The question is your functioning beyond what we would expect for someone your age with your education? And if so, then that's something that we have to look further into and see why.
Interesting.
Since you've dedicated your life, basically half your life, to understanding the brain, more than half your life probably, has that changed the way you think about identity or like even yourself? Like,
That's a good question. The way I think about myself. I
or
don't
do
know.
you do you psycho evaluate yourself?
Oh, yeah. Oh my gosh. Yes. My self-talk is like out loud. I mean, like audible conversations and lessons to myself. I'm probably a lot harder on myself than I should be. I don't extend the same grace that I would extend to others, but it has changed the way that I parent. It has changed the way that I see others and forgive others. And it actually just helps me understand people better. So I'm less likely to execute judgment and more likely to execute empathy and kind of understand. Ever since I was a kid, the only thing I've ever wanted to know about anything ever is why. And when I understand the why, it takes away the negative feelings there might have been. And then with parenting, it's totally different because you realize these little humans, these little brains are your putty and they're so plastic, and you can build a president or you can build a prisoner. Obviously that's hyperbole. Not everybody has the bandwidth to be a president or whatever. The my cat's here. The point is the same, is that the way that we parent, the way we talk to our kids, that becomes their inner voice. Like the way that I talk to myself out loud is a representation, right, of how I view and conceptualize love and discipline. And my kids will do the same. So like if every time my kid messes up and I'm like, God, do you not have eyes? Are you stupid? Blah, blah. That will become what they say to themselves. And when we talk to ourselves a certain way, this is less scientific, although there's definitely research to back it up. I published a paper that your words are predictive of your own outcomes, like your future. So still scientific. But the way that we speak about ourselves, the way that we speak in general, enhances the likelihood of those actual outcomes occurring. I try to execute that when I'm with other people. Not everybody's like me. Not everybody thinks the same as I do. But I'll tell you this much. It's been really, really useful in business. On the business side of things, it's been probably my greatest ally.
I love that answer, for real. I'm not gonna lie. That's the way me and him think. We talk about fear-based parenting, avoiding that. We've talked about all these things before, but you just put it basically right in front of us. And these are things as a father that I'm learning about myself, about how I communicate with my children, maybe where that stems from. Cleaning that out, and like you saying, like giving them always the best. Not the best of me, but that's everything you said that's on par. I love that answer. I'm not gonna lie.
And I have a quick question. Do you believe that, like, this isn't really scientific, I would say? How you speak to yourself on the inside builds your world outside. You kind of said it in a different way, but like, do you believe it in that way? The universe will react to you how you react back to it. Like I said, I know that's not scientific, but I don't know if you believe in that at all.
I do. Just full disclosure, I'm an Orthodox Christian. I'm Greek Orthodox, so I do.
Okay.
And science is honestly, for me, the biggest measuring stick of faith for me. And what I mean by that is the more science I learn, the more I realize that it's proving everything that I believe to actually be true. A lot of people think about faith and science as being like mutually exclusive and one disproves the other. I don't see it that way at all. Like, I see the fact that, like, if you look at the story of Genesis and you actually look at the geological ages that occurred throughout creation, I mean, it's like hand in hand. So a lot of the science that I consume or produce actually just further backs it up. Scientifically speaking, so there was something called a nun study, and they had young nuns, I mean, very young adults, 18, so on, and they were to write a short little narrative about themselves, about life, about whatever, right? They analyzed each nun's word type usage using a linguistics program. I've actually used a linguistics program before, and it's awesome. And so they analyze the word. Are the words present focused? Are they past focused? Are they future focused? Are they more negative? Are they this and that, right? And then they looked at these young ladies. They followed their outcomes until old age. And what they found running it through the linguistics program is that their word usage, the type of words they used, was actually a good, significant predictor of whether or not they were going to develop dementia.
Whoa.
Yeah. So, like, if that's true, logically, that would lend itself to someone, like me asking, well, if that's the case, then maybe that's true for other things too. And it is. So the words that people use when writing a monologue, or even just like recording, like in therapy sessions or whatnot, if they get permission to be recorded, the words that people use are heavily associated. There's two different statistical analyses that can be used. You can use correlation, which people could easily say correlation is not causation, which is true. Or you can use
Right.
logistic regression, which is predictive. And both ways, those words were not only correlated, but also predictive of outcomes, health outcomes, longevity outcomes, psychological outcomes. So, yes, I very much do believe in that. And I also believe in the science behind, I'm trying to figure out how to word this so it doesn't sound like hokey pokey. I mean, I have 200 manuscripts behind me that shows the century-old science, but actually government patented manuscripts that studies the science over the past century of frequencies. And words have them. We know that it's sound, right? Like the same way, if I turn up a sound to high enough frequency, I can shatter that window in front of me. Well, the same can be said for a cancer cell. The same can be said for emotions. The same can be said for anything. And so, there's some pretty cool like quantum technology machinery that uses that kind of stuff to correct those things. And I've been studying that a lot lately. And the more I study that, if you have a moment, say that something bad happens to you during the day, like, you ever notice that the only time that you're pockets get caught on the doorknobs or when you're in a bad freaking mood.
Yep, or like in a rush or like, something like that. Yes.
Yeah, when you're already like, this day's gonna suck, and it's like God snatches you and he's like, what did you say? But the thing is, when something bad happens to you, there was an article I read that basically said you've got 17 to 19 seconds to get out of that mindset. And if you do not, you will be sort of resonating at a certain frequency and it will attract the same resonance throughout the day. So even if you don't believe it, so say I get in a traffic jam, right, or something very annoying. Even though I know that I'm irritated, overstimulated, mad, frustrated, right, I still have to, it's my responsibility to get out of it. So I still have to say something that is the opposite of what I actually want to say, whether I believe it or not, say it, and say it over and over and over until it actually comes true, because you've got a very short amount of time. If you don't, then it's not just going to be that traffic jam. It's also going to be, you got home and the baby bumped their head on the table. Now you got to go to the ER. And then it's going to be, oh, I can't pay this bill. Like, it's just the way that it works. So that was a long-winded answer, and I'm sorry.
No,
We
no.
loved it. We loved it.
You're at like the corner of like for us like metaphysics and like yeah, we starting to get. I like that.
We like hearing the hokey pokey. I don't necessarily believe everything, but I at least like to hear it.
No,
Everything. Some of it's
yeah,
garbage.
Right. Some of it is. I like hearing new ideas and the way people think sometimes. It's interesting.
and these are all beliefs. These are all things that I believe. Know what you're saying?
What you were talking about
I believe
specifically.
in like yeah,
Yeah.
power of words,
I don't
frequencies.
come to conclusions like easily. So
Hmm.
if I believe something, it's because, like I said, I'm scientifically minded. I kind of think like a lawyer and a scientist. If the evidence isn't there, then I'm not going to just like invest. What do I look like doing that? I'm not doing that. But what that means is, if I've come to a conclusion, it means that there's been a significant amount of evidence that is enough beyond a reasonable doubt, to err on the side of that. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you. Now, PhrenD, but wait, there's more. Her and her team created the PhrenD mobile app, designed to support individuals experiencing cognitive impairment, known as CI, as well as their caregivers, healthcare professionals, and family members. Available in an app store near you, PhrenD combines mind exercises, information tracking, and assessment tools to help manage and potentially slow or reverse the progression of CI. The name PhrenD blends the Greek word for brain, friend, with the concept of a friend, symbolizing the app's goal to be a supportive companion in brain health app. Because you just talked about you're already doing a lot as is. So what inspired you to even step out and create the app?
So I actually developed a treatment manual because during training, there was a sort of assignment or challenge or whatever to find a gap in the research and to attempt to close it. And so I picked cognitive impairment because our future as a society looks really grim with regards to Alzheimer's and things like that. I mean, it's getting worse. And there's no real treatment that is fully established. That was my challenge. And so I developed a treatment manual. It was like 49 pages long. And then I just kind of put it aside. And then I got out of training and into practice. And I had friends. I had family of friends. I had family of mine, extended family. Just a lot of people asking for help over and over and over. And my waiting list is already like 6 months because there's just not enough providers. And the need is so great ever since COVID. So it's like, I'm only one person. There's only so much I can do. So I thought about publishing the manual so I could get it out to people. But then I'm like, I don't know, who's going to walk into a Barnes and Noble who's suffering from impairment and like know to go to that? I don't know. But I said, everybody has a phone. And I decided to condense it and put it into an app version because I just think it would reach more people. I surrounded myself with a team of people who are better than me at a lot of different things. I think that's the key to like any successful business, is recognizing your limits. stay in your lane, and I know my lane, I know my scope, and so getting people who are smarter and better at other things is important. And I wanted to make it user friendly, and I wanted to make it something that could be used not just by patients but also by family members. Like, so if you have a parent that is, not able to drive anymore, or you're noticing differences and you want to know what to do, it's for you. If you're a provider or a doctor or a nurse practitioner and you have a ton of patients coming in, you don't know what to do, it's for you. If you're the patient yourself and you realize that you've lost your keys 3 times in the same week, it's for you. And if you've got a kid that has autism or severe trauma after a sexual assault or a brain injury, a car accident, and you want to do something for your kid, it's for you. I wanted something that could kind of cross all of those different roles and be user friendly for all of them. And I think this app does a really good job of that. And I look at people as whole humans, not like a disease process. You're not autism, right? You're Joe who might be experiencing autism. You have a whole past, you have a bloodline, you have genetics, you have emotions, you have desires, you have goals, you have all that stuff. So this is like a very multidimensional, integrative app that combines the spiritual, the emotional, mental, psychological, and very much the physiological, because there's a huge component of just taking care of your body and your brain, as well as doing cognitive exercises and tracking your progress over time. It matches each person to their individual skill level because not everybody's the same, right? It's able to recognize where you're at and track it. You'll know your weaknesses and your strengths over a 6-month period. So when you go to your doctor, you could say, hey, I've got this, or I can tell I'm getting better here. That gives a lot of information for neurologists, neuropsychologists and there's also like the social component that I added in there as well, because I think we saw in 2020 that isolation is horrible for the human brain. So I tried to like encapsulate the entire human experience in that app and make it user friendly for any role that you might be in. And I put out a second version that really focuses on like gut health, insulin resistance being the cause of a lot of inflammation and disease. And then that quantum frequency machinery that I was just talking about, I'm going to be purchasing and investing in that here in about 2 or 3 months. And I plan to offer that as something I do on the side, but I talk about it on the second version as well. I don't think you're gonna find that in other apps. I think that it's still something. It's
Second
FDA
version.
approved, but
You said the second version, so y'all have something else coming out, or do I have the first version?
there's 2 versions. So the one that's out now is the second version. I kind of
Okay.
perfected it and added the stuff about gut health and frequency therapy, because there's quantum biofeedback frequency machinery that can be used that basically runs like between 7,000 and 13,000 scans on all your organ systems, and it can tell which ones are most out of whack, and it administers adjusting like corrective adjustments and frequencies. And so I talked about it in my second version, but I was like, I'm gonna invest in this machine and use it, myself for people. You could do it virtually. You could do it anywhere in the world. Like, it's quantum technology. That's something I think that makes the PhrenD like super unique.
Super. Like, I was looked on the App Store. I looked at other competing apps, and I'm like, I don't see anybody with that. I like it's simple, it's user friendly. I'm not gonna say simple, but it's definitely user friendly.
Mm-hmm.
I like to I mean, like I said, you have multiple aspects of nutrition, mindfulness about the brain, blogs. It's not just about literal, like you said, it covers all aspects. Mindfulness just it gives you just the whole scope. So you answered we had like 5 questions. I don't know if
Yep.
you had the script, but you answered literally all of our questions with that. So
Yep.
that was
Okay, good.
that's cool.
The only other thing I would add, I like how you know your audience and you basically built around all of that. Like, oh, I knew you were gonna ask that, so I, put this on there.
Yep.
Like, how long did it take you to, I guess, develop it. I don't know what
Right.
word to use, but to think of it, I don't know.
To get it from manuscript to App Store. Yeah.
That was a much longer process. For me to build the treatment manual itself, I was able to put that together in a month. To translate that into an app, that was 2 years. It was arduous. Yeah, because it's at some point it's out of your control, right? Like there's only so when I'm dealing with Big Apple, right? Like
Yeah.
yeah, I'm just little Lauren, so I can only do my part, and then the rest I gotta leave up to Big Corp. So
hmm
yeah,
hmm That's cool. That's a lot of arms you have going at once.
I know that's what I've been told.
Community questions. There's a couple. Ask people, reach out, give me a couple questions. See if we can get Dr. Lauren on the case. So,
Okay.
as someone asked, what's the best way to get, I guess, a person experiencing a difference in cognitive behavior in front of a physician? Say if they're unwilling, what's the best way to communicate to them? Maybe the do's and don'ts. What might irritate them or
Yeah. I think the biggest piece of advice, honestly, and I would say this for people who have severe autism as well.
Mhm.
I don't know if this sounds, but you really have to watch the impulse to pathologize them. And what that means is instead of trying to drag them into your world, you need to crawl into theirs for a little bit. So arguing with somebody, say, that doesn't remember something or thinks a loved one is still alive, arguing with them that, no, mom died 10 years ago, don't do that. Don't do that. What's that
Okay.
going to solve?
Right.
Because you already know that they think that person's there. So what you're going to do is you're going to scare the hell out of them. You're going to make them afraid. If that's what they're seeing, quite frankly, like, who are you to say, like, you're not really seeing that? Because maybe they are. Like, you need to crawl in their world and don't argue with them. And you need to phrase it in a way. I mean, you guys are men, right? Like, listen, like, it's already hard to get men to the doctor. What would it take for your
Yeah.
wife to get you guys to go to the doctor? You can't, if you make somebody feel sick, if you make somebody feel like, oh, something's really wrong with you, you need a crazy doctor, nobody's gonna want to go. I mean, that's a very scary thing, but it's more like, hey, everybody needs a checkup every 6 months, and we just let's go together. I'll get a checkup with you. I'll get mine after you get yours, and it's an easier way to get that first step taken care of. But when it comes to arguing with people who have a different experience, there's nothing really good that can come out of it. You've already surmised that they're not seeing reality, so you don't need to like double or triple check that, right?
Yeah. Double down on it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It made me think. I know you say you're not big into TV shows that represent the medical field, but the show The Pit on Max, I did watch that. They had a intern who was helping out a patient, and one of them, he was just brat. He just has a brat's personality. One of the doctors, and the way he was talking to him, had severe. The patient has severe autism, and she had a sister who actually she grew up with who had severe autism. So I don't know, that show, I thought it did a really good job of showing exactly what you're talking about, of how you empathize with them, you talk to them. She kind of stepped into their world. What have you been doing? Asking about him, getting into what he likes, and this and that. And it showed just how it not only disarmed them but built trust, and you know.
Yeah. Yeah. I think doctors have a tendency, there's just this sort of like there's this prestige or whatever that comes with the education, and when somebody's in your office, they're coming to you for help, and I think the things are changing, which is good, but I think that doctors really, they need to, I wish they offered sort of a class in empathy building, because it is a skill that you can build upon.
Okay.
And instead of the, me master, you need help dynamic, it's just a lot less effective for complicated cases. And so that brass, I need to get in and out, I'm here to help you, do what I say attitude, that doesn't really go over well with a lot of just human beings in general. Nobody really appreciates that. And then like for certain communities that are more at risk for diseases like dementia or even autism, for instance, the Black community is at much further risk. But there's a historical sort of distrust between Black America and the healthcare system. And there's a distrust between, females in the healthcare system. So when there's already these layers of like skepticism and distrust, and then you bring in that authority component, you're lacking empathy, and it just isn't really a good recipe for effective treatments, I don't think. And it's not a good recipe for compliance. Like if you want the patients to
Right.
actually get better and do what you say, I mean, don't you want them to like care about what you have to say? And in order to get somebody to care about what you have to say, you've got to kind of meet them where they're at for
Yeah.
anybody.
Yep, with you on that. Work-life balance. What's the day in Lauren's shoes like? Are you like the rest of TikTok and wake up at 4 a.m., dip your face in ice cold water?
No, no, no. No, I need to do better. I mean, I do my best to balance. I put in pretty decent boundaries at clinic. I'm not staying after a certain time. I don't care what's
Mm-hmm.
going on. Figure it out. But no, I mean, I just get up at 6:30 and get kids dressed, and the same thing all parents do, all working parents. You get them to school and then you go to work, and then you get done with work and you pick them up, and then you go to practice, you take them to practices or whatever they have to do. Then you come home and you cook dinner, and sometimes I'll have like a business meeting or a Zoom meeting or whatever, and I'll try to do that while I'm running a bath and cooking dinner, and you got to multitask. That's just what it is. I don't overbook myself outside of work. I'll book maybe one or two activities that day, and they can't like overlap. So, and I'm really involved with my church as well. So that's obvious. That's like a really big, I don't want to say time suck, but it's a really big commitment.
Yeah.
So just being able to say no when it's not going to work. But also taking care of yourself. If you don't have the energy to do all that stuff, then you're gonna burn out. I've burnt out before. I've been there, and it sucks. So don't do that to yourself.
What advice would you have for younger doctors on not burning out? What advice would you give them?
Yeah. Sometimes what happens is you don't realize that it's happening until it's already there, and then you're already broken. You gotta like recognize when it's on the way before it gets there. So changes in sleep patterns. Are you eating regularly? Do you notice like I know this is nerdy, but like your resting heart rate is 70 when it should be more like 55? Are you not able to sit still and watch a movie? Are you consistently thinking about, like, when you have a family night or whatever, you think about tomorrow? Those are all kind of warning signals. Do you get dizzy often? Are you having hot flashes? Are you actually cutting back on your sleep time because the only time that you get to yourself is late at night? So you end up staying up till like 1 a.m. so you can time for yourself, but then you got to get up at 6:30 and now you're running on fumes. Are you doing that? Well, that's a sign. That's a sign that, something is gonna give in the near future. Don't do what our, I guess, forefathers did and think that it's okay to work, 36 hours with no sleep. Who the hell wants a doctor that hasn't slept in 36 hours?
Yeah, that's true.
You
That is
know,
so true.
set your boundaries. Say, I will be here from 8 till 4:30 and I'm out. Don't call me, don't bother me. Do not
That's good
disturb,
advice.
like on the phone. Do not disturb. Just recognize that you're a human being and do what you tell your patients to do.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Take your own advice. Take your own
Yeah.
medicine. Yeah, there you go. I like that. I like my doctor to see if I go to a dentist, I want his teeth to be, want his teeth to look right. You know what I'm saying?
That's right.
So same
That's
different.
right.
And then while doing our research, we got a strong sense of community from you. I think we saw you at the Roots 101 this past week. Where does that stem from? Or even just like you know, say you're a big you're big into volunteering or working at your church as well. So where does that stem from?
Well, I'm second generation immigrant, so I realize that community is everything. My church is about community. I want my kids to look back on it in 50 years and say, like, my mom was a big part of the reason that this church is still around. As far as the roots, I'm obviously not Black, but I am scientifically minded, and I recognize that the risk factors are higher in certain populations. Black America is one of them. Rural America is one of them. Native, America is one of them, or indigenous. And so I kind of looked at the people that are most at risk because I can't really tackle everybody at the same time. So I thought, who needs it most? And I just go in that order. And so the first was Black America. And it just so happens that I have a lot of loved ones in my life that happen to be Black Americans. And so I asked, did they want to help me? Do they want to give me some ideas, give me some advice? Do they believe in this? Do they want to come? Are they interested? And all of them said yes. So there's been there's been a lot of events that have happened. Not just that was the Mind Fest at Roots Museum. I did a podcast the weekend before that talking about similar issues, like how social issues correlate with brain health, and specifically like in Black America. We did this really cool opening to kind of like ease tension, not tensions, but like collide worlds, right? Because I'm not Black. The host was Black, and she and I came up with an idea that maybe as an opening to loosen things up, she was going to ask questions that she didn't think I knew the answers to, and so that was really fun.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. It was like Black mom sayings, like, what is that? What do you think this means? And
That's good.
I think I did really well. And there's been a lot of other events. We've done Q&As that were open to the public. We've done roundtable discussions and just really trying to get the resources, the access, the education, everything out there to the populations that need it most first. And it just so happens I have some, really cool, awesome loved ones that happen to be willing to help me.
Personal connections, and also you just like tackling the big problems. Cognitive, you're like, cognitive needs me. CI needs me, I'm nerd. Community needs me, I'm nerd. That's exactly. I'm glad we had you on, because that's exactly we try to push. So, you want to do the funny questions? You want to get to the funny questions time?
All right, go for it.
All right.
Do any of them have to do with like manosphere stuff by any chance? No?
I don't think so. Like I said,
Okay.
we try to
Our
combat
question?
it. We try to combat it.
Yeah, I didn't. You mean the questions that they have to deal with manosphere?
Yeah, like the funny questions. I never know what to expect, honestly.
I mean, they could touch on them, but it's not the main.
I don't think so. I think they're kind of in your field of study, kind of about your, about who you are, just quirky questions.
Okay.
We'll call it quirky questions. I like that. We'll stick with that.
All right.
I have one because I'm left-handed, so
And I'm right-handed. So who's better?
Most people are right-handed.
Who's better?
Left brain, right brain. Who's better?
Is that a real thing?
Yeah, to a certain extent, but it's not as concrete as people like to make it seem, because the brain compensates so well. We could cut out half of your brain and it would be able to compensate. So it's not as clear cut, but yeah, there's people that are more dominant on one side than the other, obviously.
And does the hand determine that at all?
Yeah. The hand's
Okay.
a big indicator. That's one of the first questions I ask in the intake is are you right-handed or left-handed? It helps determine like language centers and things that are going to be more likely to be like protected in certain events. So, yeah.
Right. So if I grew up, I grew up left-handed. My mom made me right-handed. Does that now, am I better than Rashad or no?
Well, that means you're Andy then, right? Like if you can do both.
Just a little bit, like, shoot a layup here, I drive with my left hand all the time, but I don't drive with my right hand. So it's like real small things, nothing crazy.
I mean, I don't know. I think the Ambi's they've got the prestige
They
over
might,
all of
yeah.
us.
The ambies, I speak a little ambi. I'm not fluent. I speak a little. All right.
The other one, is it a myth that humans only use 10% of their brain? Is that complete BS or is that?
Yeah, it's a myth.
Yeah.
I think there's an element, a nugget of truth to it. Now, you use a certain portion of your brain at one given time, right? But also keep in mind that your breath, your heart rate, your muscle tone, holding your head up, your posture, your blinking, all of that requires your brain to be in action, right? That's already, if we're talking about brainstem, that's already, I would say 10%. But I think what they're getting at here is that you are, not, it is impossible to use all of your brain at one given moment because we are trapped in three-dimensional, or actually four-dimensional, considering one is time.
Yeah.
But should there be a day where we aren't limited by time, perhaps that would not be the issue.
Interesting. I like that. That's a different thought. Can you enjoy football and contact sports, or
Do
has
I
your field of
enjoy
study?
them?
Yeah, like does your field of study like has that? Have you ever liked them? Did it change because of your field of study? Do you still like them?
I don't like them. My son plays football. I hate it.
We both grew up playing football. We were big. We were big on football. Big
Now,
on
my
football.
husband did too. Like, obviously, I didn't want my son to play. He won that argument. He convinced me that the helmets were the safest they've ever been.
If you can implant one idea into the public's collective conscious about mental health, what would it be? Give you two if you're really struggling.
Okay. That humans are not as simplistic as animals, and that we consist of a mind, a spirit, and a soul. And the nous, essentially, the soul, includes the mind, and that's like your emotions. But the brain is the flesh of the flesh embodiment of your nous.
That's hard.
All right.
I'll make it more simple. I was just basically gonna say that the mind is a spiritual thing, but the brain is the flesh embodiment of it. So um you got to take care of both. And inflammation, the other thing would be inflammation is the cause of 99% of all disease. So you can't treat your body or your soul like crap and expect to get out scot-free.
Wow. Go ahead.
Do your kids, friends, or family ever psychoanalyze you since they know what you do for a living?
They don't try
Or
that.
do they leave it up to you? Okay.
So she's big. She's boss. She's boss.
They don't even want
You
to try.
root
They
for
don't want to
them?
go down that road with me.
Exactly.
Scared
I
to look her in the
understand.
eye. They don't even want to look her in the eye. Netting. She
All
already
right.
knows.
Honestly, a very direct person. If I have a feeling or a thought about something, like I'll just they don't actually, nobody really has to analyze me because I'll just tell you.
Oh, so it's to their benefit then. They just don't know it.
Yeah, and it's their best interest not to play that game because I'll do it right back to them, so they know better.
Now, were you a big Wii tennis person?
So what's interesting is I've always been anti video games, anti everything. I just recently allowed a Nintendo Switch.
Hmm?
Yeah. It was during the winter time. My kids were driving me crazy and they weren't able to play outside. And so I figured it was a good idea because that way they could still be active and play with each other and get some kind of workout in, and leave me alone without, like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm open to it now. I like playing it.
Okay.
All right. Your favorite Buffy episode?
I'm a really big, I really love the first season, and it's because that it was such a formative time in my life when it came out. I was, um, in 6th grade, and I don't know, you guys remember that time of life? You know, you're like 12, it's like awkward, you're weird, you don't know, you look weird, you know, you look funny, you have no idea who you are, you're very insecure, and that show came out during that time. It's kind of cheesy in the first couple episodes, but they picked up, you know, special effects pretty quickly, and it really helped me to find a sense of self at a young age. And every demon that they fought during the first season had like a metaphor for the demons of high school. So like whatever problem they were going through, high school problems, the demon, there was some correlation there, and I really like that. But my overall favorite, I would have to say, is the very last one, where the very last of the very last season, where the problem looks insurmountable and Buffy gives speech to the girls, because only the girls can be slayers, and it's about making a choice to stand up and do what is right, even if it looks like you're gonna lose. You know, she says some really powerful shit in there, man. She says like, no, there's only one thing scarier than evil, and that's us. And that's the type of stuff that I really like. It's speaking to girls, because I mean, you always see boy superheroes, and then like when there are girl superheroes, they're usually very sexualized, and like they didn't really do anything.
Oh my gosh.
They didn't really do
Just talked
anything
about this.
to earn their powers. Like they didn't do it. They didn't like go through like, you know, the fire to become that or whatever. They're just like, they're chosen because they're pretty, and their like bodies are everything. But it's like there's a very few where the women are just, and Buffy is that. Sometimes her life like really sucks, but she never ever quits. And so I want my daughters to know that, like, yeah, sometimes it's gonna be tough. Don't ever stop, ever.
That's the truth. That's the only thing that can stop you is you.
And then one last rapid fire. So the one app on your phone besides PhrenD that you can't live without.
You mean besides like the basics, like my calendar and stuff like that?
Yes.
Yeah.
I have the Pray app on my phone.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and so it gives me reminders every night, and it picks out a verse to listen to, and then it offers a podcast about that verse. And then you could also make comments in the community about it or whatever. And that's probably the one that I use outside of like the, you know, the every day. All the other ones, I wouldn't really care if they disappeared.
I like it. We're going back to the 90s.
You want to do top fives? Unless you have anything else, Marcus, you want to say besides
I was
the
going
top
to say
five?
favorite Greek dish.
Gosh, off the limonal soup. Yes, that was the first thing that everybody in my family ate when they were coming off of like the baby milk. It's home, and it's like it takes 6 hours to make, and I love making it for my family, and
Okay.
it's the thing that brings everybody home.
Is there somewhere here I can get it that you would recommend? That's what I figured.
I've looked, and so what they'll offer in some restaurants is they'll say like the Greek lemon soup. It's not. It's just like what they do is they put rice and chicken broth and squirt some lemon in there. I'm like, this is not it.
I have to get it. I have to get it authentically made.
Yeah, for real.
Okay. Married to Medicine. Could you see you and your family on a reality show?
That's so funny because I actually watched that not too long ago. I don't know whether to be embarrassed about that or not. I told you guys, so it's true. I don't know if I should be embarrassed or not, but I watched that not too long ago.
My wife watches all that.
Yeah, my husband is too private to do a reality TV show. I don't think he would be up at all. Like we don't even post my kids' actual faces on social media because of all the freaks out there. Yeah, all I know.
Well, AI now.
Do you know the song Anxiety by Doechii?
No.
Okay. Only reason it's big on TikTok because people are saying that the chords she picked, it's a song called Anxiety, talks about how she has anxiety. People are saying she picked chords that are known for causing anxiety to the listener. So since you're in, you were talking about your quantum machine before and frequencies and things like that, I would be interested to hear your review of the song from a neuro. That would be kind of cool.
Listen to it. I do know that certain melody frequencies carry certain properties. That is for sure. Like there's certain frequencies that are best for healing. I think even like Tesla had discovered this a long time ago.
Yeah.
So when I'm feeling super overstimulated, there's a specific frequency that I listen to, and it's my favorite one because there's a lot of different choices at that same frequency, but there's just this one that really like strikes a chord with me, and I can't. It's weird. It puts me in a different state, and I only need it for like 10 minutes, and then it feels like I just like woke up from a good night's sleep or something. It's weird. Um,
Is it like a specific hurt?
Yeah, so it's 432, but there's a specific
Okay.
one that because there's tons of 432s, but yeah, one that I really, really like. It just kind of speaks to me, I guess. But I mean, if there's frequencies that are healing, then it stands to reason that there's also frequencies that are disruptive as well. And our government knows that they've been toying with that for.
Yeah, so you think they took all the big bells like Liberty bells and things that we used to have in churches and took them away because they used to give us some kind of sonic resonance within each other or something?
They do, and
That's just a
yeah, I know.
okay.
Though, but it's true. And like I looked at my church, the way that it's shaped, it's not like a little cubicle. It's shaped with a dome,
Mm-hmm.
almost like a bell itself. And I think all so mosques and Orthodox churches they're kind of shaped similarly. If you go back to the more ancient structures, that is how they were shaped for the holy places. Now if you want to look at pyramids, that's a whole different purpose.
Yeah. All right. We'll give you stereotypes of doctors, and you can tell us if they're right or wrong.
All right, that'll be fun.
All right. They're always rich.
Yeah, yeah. For the most part, yeah. I mean, if you're comparing it to the average America, yes, different specialties will make different amounts. Primary care is not going to make much as cardiology, but overall, yeah, they all make good money unless they spend their money poorly. Yeah, as a whole,
See, can they?
like that, as a whole, they make a good living. Some are better than others, but yeah, they do well.
Arrogant, pretentious?
A lot of them, yeah. I think certain specialties attract that personality more. Surgery, cardiology,
Really?
yeah, those surgery, cardiology, dermatology, they tend to be a little bit more cocky.
Interesting.
I feel like surgeons will feel like rock stars or something,
Right.
like
They come in and they do a solo and then leave.
Yeah. Well, but you know what? They score really high on like pathology and like sociopathy too. Like you almost kind of have to be a surgeon.
Really? Okay. So
Yeah.
they're like a scorer in NBA or something. Like, okay.
right.
Wow, what was I gonna say off that? Y'all are all work, no breaks. Y'all have no life outside of work.
I think that used to be true, like back in the 80s and the 90s, but now I think that's changed. I think that's very different now. I think there's been a shift for better mental health among healthcare workers. They're at high risk for suicide and things like that. So I think that that's definitely changed.
Nice. Y'all are all the same, like gas stations? Like, I'm just getting gas. It's like all the same. I can go to this doctor, that doctor.
Are we all the same? God, no. 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 Like there's bad doctors and there's some really great doctors. Like any field. Bad lawyers, bad dentists, bad salesmen, everything.
Yeah. Y'all are late. Hello, I got places to go.
Yeah, it's true.
And I don't know this one. I just found this on the internet. Psychiatrists love corduroy. What does that have to do? What is that?
I never heard that.
Okay, I just want to make sure. I kept seeing it, and I'm like, what is this? I've never seen the corduroy
That's
on the.
hilarious.
I don't. I don't know. I don't know. All
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. Do you want to do top 5 self care?
Give us your top 5.
My top 5, one thing I do is I take a bath with magnesium and detox clay.
Yeah, write that down, Rashad.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful. I mean, so magnesium is, we're all deficient as our oil here sucks and our food sucks. But really correlated with relaxation, muscle spasms, and digestion and good sleep. So I love magnesium every night. And when I take a bath, there's magnesium flakes in there and that clay detox stuff. That's that for me. And then that I listen to these when I um what is he doing? I do set aside a short period of time where I delight all 5 of my senses. So, and I do it with intention. So, my favorite smell, my food, my favorite like soft blanket, and I really like the sound of the cicada. So I'll capitalize on that, and 5 of them for a short period. The other thing, I like to go outside into the sun. I'm definitely a summer girl, and it gives me
Okay.
air and quiet, honest to that I need. Here's the other thing I do. Here's a good one. I get those frequency treatments done on myself, and I do lymph massages. There you go.
Where do they like lymph nodes?
Yeah, so lymph massages where, I mean, it's like lymph and blood are basically 2 fluids that are consistently, in circulation. But unfortunately, you look at like where lymph nodes are placed, right? And down in the groin and whatnot, they're placed in areas where it's strategic. They need to be there, but it's also areas where things can easily build up. And since that has to do with like white blood cell, immune health,
Oh, really?
clearing toxins,
Okay.
if you don't have good circulation, then you can build up inflammation and get sick.
And earlier, one more time, you said inflammation is 99% the cause of diseases.
Yep. I have a hard time thinking of exceptions. Maybe like diabetes type 1. But even then, like, or leukemia, but even then, there has to be a perfect storm to activate the the improper cell matrix. Like, there has to be not just the genetic coding, but environmental factors to make it start, building cells that are not supposed to be there.
Did you hear China said that they solved? Didn't they say that they cured type 1 diabetes last week
Yes,
through
they've
stem cell?
yes. It's that word, I pronounced it wrong. It's called islet cells. They said they make those basically and they're able to produce, and then they have stem cells from the person, and basically, yeah, they solve.
Yeah, I'm very skeptical. I wouldn't believe it until I saw 20-year long
Right.
study.
Right.
They said they have a case study of a woman for, it's been 2 years, so
It's only been 2 years, yeah. So
Yeah. It's not
that
the
goes right.
cells, because those cells, they're there to make insulin, which obviously you need. But the stem cells, I'd be wondering what that would do long term. So I don't know.
From what aspect you mean? Like what it would do long term? Like to the patient or just in general?
Yeah,
Like
I mean, it's in a way it's very unnatural.
right.
And there's always a cost. Always.
So for every push there's a pull, even within that concept kind of deal.
There's always a cost when something is unnaturally occurring.
Right.
I just don't know what that is.
We appreciate you for our media literacy. We had to get it up one time.
I'm really interested to hear your top 5 superheroes.
Yeah, you don't have to go in depth.
Okay, so you already know my top one is gonna be Buffy for sure. I don't think Wonder Woman fits anywhere in there at all. I would give Batman probably number 4 simply because he had to like overcome a tragedy, although he was gifted billions of dollars. So like how hard could it really be? But he lost both of his parents in a tragic accident, so money can't replace that. And he did go have a vendetta to better the chaotic.
Oh, that's her blind spot. Jason Momoa. Jason Momoa is her blind spot. I got you. I got you.
I got two more. Just research suggests the human retina can transmit data to the brain at roughly 10 million bits per second, which is comparable to an Ethernet connection. Is that true?
So say it. So the brain can basically receive input at a speed as fast as Ethernet, essentially.
Yes, essentially.
I mean, yeah, that's true. I would say it's faster. It's electricity.
It's Wi-Fi.
Yeah, I mean, it truly is electricity, which is why cholesterol is super important for your brain. And we've demonized cholesterol. We should.
Yes.
So you need it to be higher?
Yeah. Well, it's like, so if we operate based on electricity and chemicals, think about the electrical wires that we have. They're encapsulated with rubber. We don't have rubber, but our connections are encapsulated with something called myelin sheath, and we require cholesterol to keep that electricity in the circuit that it's supposed to be going in. And so like when people are lowering their cholesterol and taking statins, that's one of the first questions I ask people who are having like a sudden change in memory. I'm like, are you on a statin? Because it's horrible for the brain.
It's good to know. One last thing for me, and then I'll let Marcus finish this up. So I don't know how true this is either. It says the brain can store as much info as 20,000 iPhones.
I don't know how to answer that question because I don't know how much an iPhone can store. I don't know how to calculate that.
Didn't they say one time that it was like 4 terabytes? I thought it was compared to like a PlayStation 4 before, and they said it was like so many terabytes, but I can't.
It just I found that interesting.
I don't know how much an iPhone can store, but I don't really think there's actually a limit on what the brain can store. That's the most beautiful thing about the brain, is that it is truly the most complicated machine in the entire universe. It is more complicated than an iPhone. It is more complicated than a computer, than a PlayStation, than any of that. You can't put a limit on it. If you're looking at somebody's brain, you're looking at their entire existence, everything that they've ever smelled in their life, everything that they've ever seen, every emotion that they've ever felt. You know, it's like, it's not comparable to like storable data and pictures. There's no limit, you know.
Makes me like, I don't know why when she was talking, I was thinking of like Interstellar with
His library brain.
just it doesn't, yeah, it has no limit, it has no boundaries, but crazy.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I got it. No, I was gonna say I have one more fact. I know I just said one more, but this is I feel like this isn't fair. It says the brain isn't fully developed till around 25 or so. But like you said earlier, and I had wrote this down, memory and cognitive abilities begin to decline in your late 20s. So we got a 5 to 10 year period of peak, and that's it.
Yeah, I mean, that's all true. When we say it's not fully formed till 25, what we're talking about is the cortex, the frontal cortex, like the most complicated higher order thought that is not fully formed until 25. That is because a lot of our higher executive order thinking requires experience. So that can only be accumulated with time. So for you to be able to forecast into the future and associate cause and effect, action and consequence, this and that, you had to have seen it happen in real time and logged it as something meaningful. And so that's why we see like teenagers and young adults, they're still making really stupid choices. And evolutionarily speaking, that's kind of what they're supposed to be doing, because like if you roll back in time 1,000 years ago, a 13-year-old boy wasn't playing Xbox. He was training for war, right? He was like, they were pioneering. And so you needed somebody whose development was advanced enough to know how to train for war, but stupid enough to train for war, like to, you know what I'm saying?
Yep, exactly.
And but that's also the age where pioneering happens, and you know, you have all these great ideas. But yeah, 25 is kind of the consensus where that frontal is fully developed. The memory is what starts to kind of plateau around 30 to 33, and then you'll notice changes. But what I'm saying from my app and from my practice is those norms are based off of an average of a population that is chronically sick. So just because the average in our population says that the peak is 30 to 33 with cognition, but you're basing it off of a population where morbid obesity is 70%, where inflammation and diabetes and all of these things are so prevalent, where our food is full of, it's devoid of the nutrients, but it's full of other things our body can't process. So we're a sick population. So I refuse to accept that that's just the way that it is. I think that if you treat your brain well and you feed it and you take care of it and you regulate your cortisol and your stress hormones and you get good sleep and you eat from the freaking ground or from the animal, you know, at a local farm or in your backyard or whatever, then I don't think that would necessarily be the case. I don't. I think that's the case for our population. So
Great way to break that down. That's why I hit the farmers market, local farmers markets.
there you go.
Proud
Yes.
of you. And then lastly, speaking of that, farmers markets, it just so happened, I turned on the news this morning. WDRB was explaining that the Greek Fest is this weekend.
Yeah.
You going? You going?
Am I going? That's my church. Yes.
So
Like
Assumption, that's your church.
that's my church. Yeah. Like I'm on the parish council. I'm chairwoman of stewardship, and my kids will be performing like a total of 9 performances through Friday and Saturday. Yeah.
Is it like during the day, evening?
It's so Friday it starts in the evening, goes really late, and then Saturday it starts in the morning, and then and like when I say morning, I mean like 11 a.m. And it goes all the way till 11 p.m. So it's like all day Saturday.
I'm gonna try to get my family out there and stop by.
Yeah, you should. Seriously, they're expecting, so they have Greek food, Greek dancing, and that you can take a look in our church and look at all the icons, but they also have vendors that are coming in from Greece, and they're selling handmade jewelry and clothing and items and just like really cool, authentic stuff. Good Greek music and performances. They have contests at nighttime, like for the non-Greek people to participate in some of the fun dancing. And then, yeah, it's gonna be a lot of fun. They're expecting like 9,000 people this year between Friday and Saturday.
Whoa! I did not know y'all do it like that. Gosh,
it's the biggest. That's the most that we've like. That would be breaking our record. So hopefully, it's great.
is the soup you mentioned gonna be there?
No, that takes 6 hours. That takes 6 hours to make. That's like a
I'm gonna have to.
that's like a home kitchen,
I'm gonna have to pay you for a pot
brother.
because
Yeah,
I'm gonna need that.
it's so good.
I was lucky enough to go to Greece, Athens, 2019, before the pandemic, right before all that. We grew up and I know it's not the same, but Lebanese friends. So I grew up with that like food culture, but
Yeah.
I have to come then and try the food. And just FYI, I'm not saying that I'm a baklava expert, but that New Albany Farmers Market, there's some guy who makes some great baklava. So
Oh my
just have to
gosh.
put that out there because it's, I don't know, maybe I'm a stickler because, like I said, I grew up around it. But I'm like, oof, some good baklava. It changed
Yes,
my
we'll
evening.
have that. We'll have that. We'll have other pastries. But no, the avgol that takes a long time. That's like I make that every year on Christmas Eve.
Oh,
And then
it's one of them. Okay.
yeah, and like I'll make it once every 3 months, but it's like come to my kitchen and let me show you love with this soup type of thing. We can't just feed it to the
Okay.
masses.
Okay.
Is there a recipe online? Like, could I Google it and make it?
Look
It
at
ain't
it.
gonna be the same.
No, if it would actually I have the recipe written down. It's like in my grandmother's actual handwriting and my
You're not
mom.
getting, yeah.
Yeah, it's not gonna no, because I'm looking at like I just Googled it and I'm looking at the images.
It ain't the same.
No.
The way she said I'm looking at the images lets me know that she's not finding what she's looking for.
No, they're doing absolutely not. No. Nope.
Okay, just
I
wondering.
wouldn't need it, but I'm
All right.
snobby when it comes to it, so.
You can't make it online. There's no stronger endorsement but to go see him in person at the Greek Fest. So we'll definitely try to get out there. It'd be nice to meet you in person. But with that being said, we just thank you for joining the show. Thank you for opening our minds up, breaking down what you do, how you do it. Thank you for going even beyond that, creating an app, being so, all inclusive, thinking of everyone. That's bigger than even though that's what you do and you study, that's bigger than your career. Thank you for helping out with the community. Like I said, places like Roots 101. And thank you for your time. Time's
Oh,
valuable, and you gave us plenty of time. We're only supposed to go an hour. We went twice as long. So, like, literally, if you're promoting PhrenD, if you're promoting anything, hit us up. We're gonna do promotion for you all week. Like, just let us know anything we can do, and hopefully, we'll get out and try to see you this weekend. Very nice
that's so
meeting you.
sweet. Thank you guys so much. That really means a lot. That seemed very genuine, and I really appreciate that. Thank you for letting me come on here.
Yeah, definitely. The,
Problem.
any time too. Want to hop back on? Something new happens. You just want to say something. If it doesn't have to be long. It can be short. It doesn't have to be anything. We can have fun, whatever it is. Just let us know and let us.
You're
Okay.
in the iCast community now.
Yeah, you're in the ICAST community now, and like I said, hit us up any way we can help you because you're helping us. So
Absolutely. I appreciate it. And I would be more than willing to help you guys combat manosphere stuff. So,
okay, okay. Ah, we might maybe just do something small where we just chime in for like 15 minutes and be
Yeah,
like, shoot this down for us. Snipe this down. We're gonna give you the
yeah.
sniper. You just shoot this down. Please do.
yes, there's so many facts that and stats that just completely debunk like the majority of what they say. So, it won't be hard. I could do that in my sleep.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, well go enjoy your go ahead.
I was gonna say maybe one time you can come on. Just do strictly top 5 lists. We love our
Yeah,
top
we love
5
doing
lists,
that. That's
so
what we're kind of
we do
known,
that
known
often.
for.
Okay. Gotcha.
So yeah. Yeah, go have a great weekend. Enjoy Greek Fest and all best wishes to you and
All
friend D.
right. Thank you guys. Hopefully, you guys come and you guys really enjoy it. So, I appreciate it. Thank you guys.
Of course.
Thank you.
All right. Bye. But wait, there's more. Her and her team created the PhrenD mobile app, designed to support individuals experiencing cognitive impairment, known as CI, as well as their caregivers, healthcare professionals, and family members. Available in an app store near you, PhrenD combines mind exercises, information tracking, and assessment tools to help manage and potentially slow or reverse the progression of CI. The name PhrenD blends the Greek word for brain, friend, with the concept of a friend, symbolizing the app's goal to be a supportive companion in brain health.